Okay, let's create this tracker project. First of all, we're going to need to set things up. We are going to need to have a new website in our computer. So if we go to XAMPP and find the HT docs, here we're going to have a new website called Tracker, which will place PHP files and other things shortly. In fact, let's call it Family Tracker. There we go, and so that's the website set up. It's as simple as that. We need to now go to the database, phpMyAdmin, and create a brand new database from the design with related tables. We're going to set constraints on those tables. So if I type localhost, hopefully we will get things up and running. There we go. Let's go to phpMyAdmin. Just being a little slow as it's only just started up. Okay. So here's our phpMyAdmin. We are going to create a brand new database called Family Tracker. So if I go to databases, create a database called Family Tracker, just to match the website name. There we go. What we need to do is on Family Tracker we need to create a new user. So if I get the database, well actually let's just create the tables that we've outlined. The first table that we're going to do, each one is from the box. The table name is written inside. Convention dictates that we capitalize the first letter of the table name, and this one we're going to have 4 fields: first name, person ID, first name, last name, and birth year. So let's create this table, and we'll set the user shortly. So this one's going to be person ID, and we need to set it as the primary key and have it auto increment. Importantly, can you make sure that you use the InnoDB storage engine for the table? There are a couple, ISAM, memory. If you use anything other than InnoDB, foreign key constraints may not work. Okay, so next one that I want to have on is the first name. For this, I'm going to have a varchar. It's just going to be 25 characters long, just to make sure we can have enough space for our first names, and the same goes for last name. Make it a little bit longer, 30. And finally, we're going to have the birth year. Now, the reason why we've got the birth year is because if you're doing this, and the idea of this is to be a sort of family tracker through history where they've moved and have it displayed on the map, but there might be 2 people with the same name, so we're going to separate them by having a year of birth so that we know which one is which. So that is my first table, person. I save that. We should be good to go. The fact that it's been awfully slow this morning. Okay, the next table that we're going to create is the second outside table. If we think of the diagram, we've got two outer tables linked to a middle table, a link table. So we've got location and person, and they're linked to the lived at if you go back to the drawing of the table. So I'm going to create this second outside table, which is location. So, okay, I'm new. And the table name is going to be called location. And we're going to have location ID. Keep these all lowercase. I don't think it matters too much, but it certainly helps you when you're looking through your files about the file names. They'll match up. So we've made that the primary key, and hopefully we've created an auto increment on it, which is good. So the next field, so for the location, what we want is sort of the first line of the address. So I'm just going to type first line, because we're going to have the address, and we are going to have a latitude and longitude. The longitude and latitude are the important ones, so this could be sort of empty. Let's make it large, 50. The latitude and longitude are really what powers the Google Maps. So these are incredibly important, and they should always be set. However, what we need, the first line of the address, maybe a person's been born somewhere or died somewhere, or and there is an address, we could actually add that to our map as some further information. But these two fields, latitude and longitude, are the important ones. So that is my location setup. What I'm going to do now is set the middle table, the link table, lived at. That again is, this is a really important table. Basically all it's going to do is contain links to the outer table, so it's just going to contain the keys. So let's call this one lived at. Notice that I am typing these in capitals, but they are being lowercase here. Maintain that structure. Different databases do it different ways. The old version of PHP, my admin and the database, did capitalize these. These don't seem to. So in this one, we're going to have a lived at ID. Again, each item in the database is going to be unique. Okay, and we're going to make sure that the database itself does the auto incrementing on it. And now we're just going to have the links. So this one links to the person table, so I really want the person ID in here. I'm going to leave that just as integer as it was in the other table. The other table that it linked to was the location, and that had one called location ID. Always use the table name and ID at the end so that you knew which one you're talking to. And the table that we haven't built yet, we'll come to that in a minute. What I'm going to do is have a date from. Okay, I'm going to add another column and a date to. So if they were sort of living in a location, they may have lived there for 10 years. I need to know when the start date was, when the end date was. It's not really important, but it might help me if I want to track around the country where they're going. I'm going to add another column, and this is the table we haven't built yet, but I am going to put in event ID because it's going to be the event table and it's going to have an ID. I've left that one till last because I am going to put some values into that table. So I think we're clear on that one, so I can just click save. Brilliant. So I've got one more table to create, which is going to be event. Now the event, I mean, we could include this in live.dat table, but I thought perhaps it's better if we have a fourth table in our database. This is going to be almost just as straightforward. It's going to have two fields. That's all it's going to have. It's going to have an event ID. And again, we need to set it as primary and auto increment. You go back and check that the auto increment set on a previous table. And it's going to have the event. And the event is going to be sort of text. It's going to be, because we're looking at locations and things like that, it might be data that we've picked up from a birth certificate or from a death certificate, or from a census, a residence on a census, and I sort of want to map that. So what was the event? Was it a birth? Was it a death? Was it where they lived when the census was taken? And I'm just going to use that. This could also be empty. There doesn't need to be an event associated with the item. We're still getting some problems with this. There we go. So that's my sort of database setup, but all the tables are, how can I put it? They're not linked at the moment, they're just individual tables. And what I want to do is go to this live.dat table, and I want to sort of have some foreign keys expressed on this one. So what have I got under more? If I can create an index on person, because it's linked, this is a foreign key linked to the person table, foreign key linked to the location table, and foreign key linked to the event table. If I put an index on these, then I can build the relationships which will control the data that goes in. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So on person ID, I'm going to create an index. Okay, and on location ID, I'm going to create an index. And on event ID, I'm going to create an index. So these are the three tables that are going to be linked. So we can see alter table, live.dat, add index, event ID there. So what I really need to do is go to the relationship view. And I can then start adding foreign key constraints. Okay, so now what foreign key constraints means is that I'm going to have a person in this table linked to the person table. If that person doesn't exist in the person table, it will not be allowed to add items into the database. So if we add one on person ID, so we're restricting what can happen. It's quite straightforward. Just match them up. There we go. So what this is, let me just quickly explain to you. This is the column in the live.dat table, person ID, and I'm saying to it, go to the person table and check that there's a person living in there, but look at the person ID, so they must match. If there isn't a matching person, then we can't add that to the database. So I'm going to add a further constraint because I've got the three tables linked to it, the two outer tables. I could give this a constraint name, person constraint. This one location constraint. Different versions of PHPMyAdmin do this in different ways. So this is quite a nice way of doing it. So our location must match up with the location, and it should pick up the primary key from there. just check it, that is location ID. So that's 2 of my constraints. I need the third one to make sure that if there's an event in this table, that also I'm not allowed to add an event into this table that doesn't exist in the event table. So let's go on to the event ID and choose the event, and we should be picking that up. Great, so that's all the constraints set on it. I'm going to choose save, and we should, without any errors, fingers crossed, there we go, we've managed to add our constraints. The database is now built. All we need to do is write the PHP code now, which will populate these tables.